Hey guys, another video for our Myths About Japan playlist. We've had a lot of ridiculous myths on this playlist. This is probably going to be one of the most ridiculous. We've had a few messages this week from people telling us that they'd heard that the beds at the Tokyo Olympics were made of cardboard in order to stop people having sex. Right. So we heard last year, as the Olympics were getting ready last year, 2020, we were hearing all sorts of things, being told quite proudly about all sorts of amazing innovations at the Olympics. So among them were all sorts of environmentally friendly ideas. And in amongst that was beds made for officials and for athletes that had been made from recycled cardboard. So it's more like particle board or something similar to that, where they've reconstituted old cardboard and made it into sort of a more substantial board and then made beds out of it. So they told us about that last year when they were getting ready for the Olympics for the first time. They've done a few things like that to sort of show that they're environmentally friendly while people are here. So somewhere along the line, as with all these myths, they start with some facts and then end up being distorted into something else. So yeah, it's a fact. It's a fact that the beds at the Tokyo Olympics are made from recycled cardboard. They're not even made of cardboard, because it's recycled cardboard that's been made into something else, made into something more substantial, more like some sort of particle board or some sort of laminated board sort of thing out of old cardboard. So the true fact is the beds are made of recycled cardboard that's been reconstituted into something else. So, but of course that doesn't sound so interesting. Like with all these myths, if you look at the truth never sounds quite as interesting as the myth. And of course that's not going to sell newspapers, it's not going to get people to watch your TV show or your internet video or look at your silly website, right? And people know that. The people who post this crap, they know that some of them are smart enough to know that that's illogical, that a bed that's strong enough to support the weight of a heavy athlete is also going to be strong enough to support somebody having sex. What's the logic in that? Is that they make a bed out of cardboard, right, which is a pretty funny image on its own, that's made just strong enough to support an athlete, but not strong enough to support somebody having sex. Now, we're talking about a 50-kilo diver diving off of what do you call those high divers? Or are we talking about a 120-kilo wrestler? There's no logic in that, you know? That's the amazing thing about a lot of these bullshit myths, is that it's so irrational and so illogical. It just shows how gullible the internet is. No disrespect to anybody who'd heard that and wondered if it was true. The problem is that, look, there is a huge percentage of people, obviously, on the internet that are hugely gullible, and that's why this shit works, right? However, in fairness to the other less gullible people, you know, often these things are reported by what we would think would be fairly credible sources. You know, people and organisations that people trust are repeating this crap. And quite often they're either repeating it as fact or they're quoting it, and that's quite often how they get around it. It's been reported that, you know, it's been reported that the Tokyo Olympics have cardboard beds made out of cardboard in order to stop the athletes having sex, right? They know most of them, the smarter ones, know that it's bullshit, but they're just doing it to get views, you know? They're just doing it to get views. So, as a bit of a side note too, they were giving out condoms to the arriving athletes at one stage, or leaving them in the rooms or something, but they're basically distributing condoms to the athletes and other people, the officials and other people attending the Tokyo Olympics were being given condoms. We heard, it's typical Japanese style, we heard that they'd been giving them condoms, and then we heard they were giving them condoms, but they're asking them to please not use them, please take them home with them to their home countries, and please don't use them here, because that because of the state of emergency thing, they want people to be maintaining social distance, right? And it's very hard to maintain a 2-meter social distance if you're having intimate relations with someone sexually, right? So we heard, first of all, we heard that they were giving people condoms, and that is a fact, by the way. They were distributing condoms to the people. And then we heard that they were giving them condoms but asking them not to use them. And then recently we heard that they'd stopped giving them condoms. So they're in a bit of a dilemma. The old guys that run the place are in a bit of a dilemma, because it's like, well, we sort of got to give them condoms in order to, you know, for safe sex, but we don't want to encourage people to not maintain social distance. And again, it's that difficult situation they're in, where they've got a state of panic on. The state of emergency is still in place in Tokyo, and will be so until August. So there's still a state of emergency in Tokyo, which means everybody should be maintaining social distance, which means handing out condoms is sort of ridiculous, isn't it? Right? If everybody's supposed to be maintaining social distance. So it's just farcical, isn't it? But I mean, obviously with this background, it's easy for people to spread myths about what's going on in Japan, because you know, there's so much ridiculousness happening already that it's easy to believe all these other silly things, isn't it? When the real news and the real stuff that's happening is equally ridiculous, it's hard to work out which ridiculous thing is true and which ridiculous thing is not, isn't it? So one thing that's true is it's very hot in Japan at the moment. Today's, right here, it's about 34 degrees and about 40% humidity, so it's pretty warm and steamy. So anyway, that's it. Yeah, the truth is that the beds at the Tokyo Olympics were made using recycled cardboard that was reconstituted into another material that was more substantial in order to make beds, in order to be ecologically friendly, environmentally friendly, or sustainable is probably the better word for that, isn't it? Because, yeah. So that's what they were for. It had nothing to do with people having sex or not having sex. The fact about the condoms, they were being handed out. We believe that they might have stopped doing that. But the fact that they were handing out condoms doesn't fit with the idea of a bed that folds up and breaks when you have sex on it, right? Anyway, I've got to try and think of an interesting thumbnail for this now. Think of the thumbnails you could do for that video. Anyway, there it was. No doubt more myths videos coming soon, because we obviously got the world's media here and everybody around the world watching what's going on in Tokyo. So no doubt there's going to be loads more mythical nonsense being reported around the world about what's going on in Japan. So we hear so much of it. Usually we don't sort of bother with it, but occasionally we get one like this. It's just too ridiculous not to report on, isn't it, really? Too ridiculous not to address. Anyway, there it was. More videos coming soon.